Hello and welcome to the Schooner Pod. We are here to break down Oklahoma's Cotton Bowl victory over the Florida Gators, 55-20. It was a remarkable win over their scout team, one that will echo in the halls of the Bud Wilkinson house or whatever you call it for years. I'm your host, Bobby Howard. With me today, Jameson Maxwell, Ty Lee, as always. And guys, how are we feeling? This is the first time we've ever wrapped up a season, immediately after the game. I believe our LSU recap last year was me asking Ty if he had any thoughts. He said no, and we moved on. We've matured up, I guess, with this 55-22 win, one of the biggest margin of victory wins by an Oklahoma team in a bowl game ever. The dogs are freaking out. The dogs are barking. Everyone's loving it. But anyways, Jameson, what does this win mean for Oklahoma? I'll just let you start.
It really doesn't mean much. It's a confidence boost for the players internally, but if we were looking for an external reason, there's always going to be excuses and ways to turn the narrative away from us. If we want to use this in the future, another team's going to use it as a negative. It's simple as that. But the way the players came out on Twitter, talking trash afterwards, posting dead Gators as their profile pictures, that's what we needed. We needed a confidence in this team that we haven't had in a long time. So this was really good for us.
The amount of swagger, the amount of, just straight up shit talking after that game was it was awesome. We haven't had that swagger in years. And it was well-earned swagger, even though Florida was missing a lot of players, they just flat out went out and beat the brakes off of them. After all the smack talking with James Houston before, it's good stuff. Ty, what's your thoughts on this new attitude that swagger OU has brought kind of afterwards and really just the way they performed?
Yeah, I loved it because it was, in my opinion, it was sort of a validation on the national scale of, the changes that OU has been making and that OU's been saying that it's making. Sorry about that. You have to realize, for a lot of people, I like to think that it's much like I am with other schools that are top 10, is a lot of people nationally probably don't watch OU games. They might catch the OU Texas game and they will watch our bowl game, but that's it. So I think you've heard, and you see it on Game Day and on ESPN and such, sort of these storylines about OU. And I think people have heard for a couple years now, everyone knows the OU offense story, but I think everyone has heard this whole OU defense improvement storyline for a couple years now. And you really didn't, there were some changes, but you really didn't see a big change last year. And this year, I think we really validated that on a national scale because, picking off a Heisman quarterback, or a Heisman candidate quarterback 3 times, in one quarter is massive. That's huge. And just that margin of victory and they had one garbage time touchdown, but it was, I think, super impressive. And to cut myself short, it helps us. It helps our credibility, win against a top 10 team on the national stage. It helps us recruiting wise in our credibility that the rest of the conference went undefeated in their bowl games. That gives us a huge legitimacy that we can, show to recruits, and just the overall performance and the vibe of the team. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think more than anything, it brings the momentum into next year. It really has this, lasting impact. I know Florida they weren't what they are. They weren't the team that was blowing out and really, dominating the bulk of the SEC that wasn't named Texas A&M. But when it really comes down to it, that's still a very good win. And again, they beat them worse than we beat UConn in 2010. So if you ask me before the game who I thought was better, 2010 UConn or Florida without some wide receivers, I'd obviously pick this Florida team with a Heisman candidate quarterback. It was a very impressive win. I don't think I know Dan Mullen obviously said his piece, and we'll get to that later about the billion different complaints he had. But this isn't about Dan Mullen. This isn't about Florida. This is about Oklahoma putting an absolute exclamation point on their season that I believe will roll over into success for next year. Let's break it down and start off with the defense. Just a remarkable performance, as you mentioned. 3 interceptions of the defensive candidate, or the Heisman Trophy candidate, Kyle Trask. I believe in the first 3 drives. Am I wrong on that?
Close. It was close.
I think it was 1.
It was either
2,
3.
It was the first 4.
It was
I don't
3
think it
of
was
the
the
first
first
4. 3 of the first 4, interceptions.
We might be really wrong there. We should probably check that.
I'm checking it right now.
Someone's probably screaming like.
So
I think it might have been
first 3
3
possession. It's Bobby was correct.
Yeah. There you go. I guess I got it. It was Trey Norwood, Brian Osimo, and Woody Washington. One of which returned back to the house for 6, the Norwood one. Just what a way to start a game. And for a team that when we started this season, one of the biggest things we really wanted to see out of this OU defense was turnovers. To immediately just start picking Trask off in ways that were his fault is remarkable. Jameson, what does that do for Speed D to have such a huge start?
It was big because it's something we haven't seen this whole season. We've seen turnovers this season. We've seen great defense this season, but we've not seen anything we've seen like we saw in that bowl game, because those were all coverage schemes, disguising things, and tricking Kyle Trask into throwing that ball and give it up to our secondary. This was not on our pass rush. Our pass rush only had 1 sack the whole game. There was some threat there, but it was not like he was under duress and threw it up and we got a pick. These were going in front of the wide receiver, reading the play, baiting him into something. That's extremely rare from this OU secondary. It was a huge jump, and I think that's the reason why you see guys like Trey Norwood entering the draft, because it's honestly marvelous how well he played in this game.
Yeah, defensive MVP for Trey Norwood, a well-earned award on his part. Really just remarkable. And I think you've got to give a lot of love to Alex Grinch and the preparation the Oklahoma coaching staff did in this game to get OU ready for this, and to really you could tell coaching more than anything, I think, was the biggest difference in this. And it really especially shone through on the defensive side. Ty, what are your thoughts on the OU defense, just with a broad stroke?
Yeah, I think broadly, offensively, Florida was obviously very successful this season. And they were missing, some of their weapons, or most of their weapons, I think we've now seen when it comes to the passing threat. But schematically, outstanding job. I think that was really, I think our Speed D is really built, to counter sort of an offense like Florida has, especially one with such a minor run threat. And then a non-existent run threat from the quarterback most of the time, which I'm sure we'll dive into a little bit. But yeah, Trask is not a run threat whatsoever, period. So that makes things a lot easier. And I think, Jameson touched on sacks and pass rushes and pressure. I think part of that may have been, a scheme. I think we maybe held back and didn't try to send people because it's, not really necessary and didn't really add much when we could, keep a few more people deeper, maybe. You'd have to watch more game tape, maybe to validate that opinion. That's something that I kind of thought while watching it and again just now. But yeah, I think really schematically we were just set up to beat them. And then our players themselves, I think, are very emotional players on the defense, especially in the sense of, they really are feeding off of the emotions and the vibe of the moment. And to start with a pick six, there's no better way than to pick off this dude that you've heard, for months is a world beater, star killer quarterback, and you just right away pick him off, pick six. That was massive for the team as a whole, but I think especially for the defense, because it shows the players, okay, what we're doing, this is working. And then, to accentuate that again and again, was just massive.
I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was just from the get-go a tone setter. Incredible performance. Yeah, it set the tone.
I couldn't think of a word, but
yeah.
It absolutely set the tone.
And the defense did lose a step whenever Florida put their backup quarterback in. Really threw us off with a bit of a run game that we hadn't seen. At one point, they had two backup quarterbacks in the game, one randomly lining up at receiver, as far as I saw. So when they got down in that 21-0 hole, they got weird, and I don't think you can blame the defense for that. But in general, it was just such an all-around, holistically great performance out of the defense, out of the secondary, out of the linebackers, and Jameson, solid game from Buki Radley-Hiles, who did not start, but when he played pretty good. What do you think about Buki?
Just for ever since that TCU game where we were really going at him, he's been really solid in keeping his head low, not doing much stupid, playing good defense, reading the coverage well, being in the right position. And teams aren't able to bully him because we've moved Norwood down to that nickel position. And it's made it where teams can't just go over and over and over to the slot because Buki isn't always there. And we've changed up the scheme. And it's completely allowed Buki to spread his wings and do better. And I'm really proud of him. And, right now he's looking at it. He's seeing – he hasn't said he's coming back next year. And he's looking at the possibility of going into the draft, which is crazy to think, but it might be his time because if Trey Norwood's gone, but we got Justin Harrington coming in at that nickel position vying for him, maybe he sees the writing on the wall that our defense looks a little bit better with him not playing every single down.
I mean, yeah, that's a very good point. And Ty, I know you'd be thrilled to have Buki gone. But Jameson, what would that do for OU's defense? Because you mentioned Justin Harrington. Is it time for OU, in a way, for Buki to move on?
No, I don't think OU would push him out at all because he is so valuable for us, off the field when it comes down to locker room, and everybody likes him there. Plus recruiting, he's a celebrity of recruits. And even if he does poorly, that is so powerful for us to have him on campus. And I think we've realized that we don't have to play him every single down. I feel like we had this feeling that we owed it to him because he's some 5-star and we gave him all the respect freshman year. I feel like we don't feel that the debt anymore to him. We can just play him where we need to, and it's worked. So for us, we will do whatever he wants to do, whatever he thinks is best for him. Yeah. But if that's the NFL for him, go for it. I don't know what his draft stock would be, but go for it.
Yeah, and I mean OU has always been accepting, and we'll get to the guys who declared. Maybe a surprise or two in there if you hadn't checked. But Ty, your thoughts on Buki? I guess not messing up, doing pretty solid this back half of this year. Before we give the defensive game balls.
Yeah, I think this game really you could probably look back on as one of the highlights of his career. And I'm not saying that sarcastically. I know he's had games where he's had, turnover creations and stuff. Bobby's messed me up by eating chili on camera. But yeah, so not only did we had sort of established this Schooner pod meta idea that the standard for Buki is just to not mess up. But the really impressive thing, I think, is that not only did he not mess up, he didn't give them a touchdown, he didn't give them an egregious penalty. He actually had good, smart plays. He had some a pass breakup, especially, that really sticks to mind, where he sort of reached around from behind the guy, and it was super impressive to me because it was a very mature play, in my opinion, because he sat back there, made his move in the coverage to break up the pass, but did not, fully commit to it where he could get burned. It was a situation where even had the guy caught it, he would have been able to be right there to get the tackle. And traditionally, he was not super smart, I want to say, on those plays. He would really go, all or nothing, and very frequently it would turn out to be nothing. So I think, props to him, outstanding game by Buki, in my opinion.
Absolutely. It was the exact type of game we want to see out of him, for sure. By the way, if you're listening live and would like to have a chili ASMR from me, let me know, and I will provide that. But if you're a normal person and don't want that, just don't say anything. Anyways, game balls. Is it Norwood? Do we agree with the Cotton Bowl selection here, or do you have a different selection? It's okay to just say Norwood, because I probably will just say Norwood.
Yeah, I'll say Norwood. I will say that I did, talk down that we only had one sack. Our pass rush was there. There was pressures. I'm not saying that Perkins and Benito did not have their stellar games at every time. It just wasn't what we've usually seen from our D-line in the past. Trey Norwood played exceptional. He's been doing it consistently through the past games. I know that we're not supposed to bring back, past games, but the amount of consistency that he's shown in these past couple games, plus his performance in the Cotton Bowl, I have to give it to Norwood.
Yeah, it's got to be Norwood. Just how solid he played. Obviously the pick six is I guess the most impressive play of the game. The game that really started putting the pressure on Florida, and really from the get, like the second you're up 14-0 after 2 Florida snaps, it all goes downhill from there for Florida. So, and then his continued play throughout. It's got to be Norwood.
Yeah, I'm gonna be contrarian just for the sake of recognizing different people. I'm gonna go with Woody Washington. I think stat wise, he's had his best game yet. He had a pick, and then he had I believe 4 or 5 tackles. Let me see here. Oklahoma defense, Woody Washington. Yeah, 4 tackles. So, yeah, I'm going to go with him because he's a freshman, and he's the future of this defense, and he's a guy that, in the next 2 years at least, we're going to have to lean on with sort of a wealth of experience and some seniority in the defense. And, if he's what we have to look forward to in terms of the future of the defense, we are in really good hands. So I'll go with Woody Washington to sort of cap off his entire season in hopes for our future. Going from I don't think he was a starter at the start of the year, worked his way up, and now outstanding game in a pick as a cornerback in the bowl. So yeah, Woody Washington will be my defensive game ball.
Woody was remarkable. He didn't really start getting a lot of major burn until I believe Texas. So a really good season for him. He's one of the biggest standouts this season, without a doubt. Let's talk about the offense. So first and foremost, an immaculate running game. One of the best rushing games we've seen in OU history. At least in the bowl games, I believe we set a bowl rushing record for OU. We nearly set a single game rushing yards per attempt, record. But apparently someone looked back and found we apparently rushed for more against, I guess, Colorado in the 70s. But so basically an absolute outstanding rushing game from OU. One of the most just incredible out of Ramondre Stevenson. And as noted on the Cotton Bowl pregame show, noted X Factor Seth McGowan, who has not played since Texas or TCU. What a game for the running game. Between the O-line, and, obviously the talents of the rushing game. That to me is the story of this ball game, is how the running backs just absolutely dominated. Jameson, your thoughts on the rushing game?
Yeah, it made the game easy. Ramondre Stevenson looked like an immovable force. He looked so dominant playing against Florida's scout team. I'll give it to Florida. The people don't realize that their best defensive player also was not playing, so I'll give that to them. But still, even if he was out there, Ramondre is still going to look absolutely dominant, average over 10 yards per carry, which seems to just be so normal for him. And even though he did have the one fumble, it made it where, Spencer Rattler barely even had to work that hard. I felt like it was a very effortless game all the way across the offense.
It's like they were running the ball so well early that they got bored, started trying to do some weird stuff on offense, chucking the ball deep, kind of got our offense in gridlock, and then they started running the ball again and we're fine. Which is that's great. If it works, it works. But in general, the rushing game was just remarkable. And I don't know if that linebacker, their leading tackler, would have made that much of a difference. We've seen this as an issue. This is a trend with Florida. They got pounded by Texas A&M on the ground, who has a very remarkable running game as well. So honestly, I don't know if that subtraction, I mean, it probably would have helped a little bit, but let's be real. I don't think it would have been, the difference maker in this game. And I don't think you're saying that either. But
no, definitely not. I don't think that he was. But Sean Miller was very good this season. But you can't fix it. You can't fix that. The way we played, 400 plus yards, And it's crazy. You mentioned about Seth McGowan with the X Factor. Whenever we heard that in the pregame, I was like, what? I was like, they even watch him? But obviously they had some insight that this dude was going to touch the ball once in the running game, go 73 yards. And then he's going to catch a pass, and go 3 catches and go 70 yards. That is extremely great protection, and I don't know how they pulled it off.
I don't know, but I loved it. Ty, your thoughts on Ramondre in the rushing game?
Yeah, so I think first, thought on the rushing game, and I don't want us to dive down this rabbit hole, but what a loss for OU with oh no. Anyways, yeah. What a loss for OU with not having Pledger there. I think, I don't even want to dive into hypotheticals, but if we had a run threat at the start of the season, this might be a completely different season for OU. We would have been blown out by Bama, I'm sure. But I think, the run game, absolutely tremendous. Both Stevenson and Major had a significant number of carries, both averaged more than 10 yards per carry. Marcus Major had 9 carries and averaged 12. You had touched on Stevenson with his 18 carries, averaging 10. Seth McGowan obviously averaged 73 yards a carry, but he only touched it once. But yeah, everything we did running-wise was working. I mean, Mikey Henderson had an 18-yard run. So it was just, maybe that speaks to Florida a little bit, but a lot of the success in the run is the D line as well, and they weren't missing anyone there. So I think that was a huge factor for you. In terms of star defenders being there, I think I don't know. I really don't believe it would have made a difference. And if anything, I think it maybe even potentially would have hurt Florida, in the sense that it would have really skewed the time of possession back towards an even amount. I don't think they would have been able to get us off the field, but the time of possession prior to the fourth quarter was almost 2/3 Florida or something absurd like that. It was we really did not have the ball a lot, or maybe it was the first half. But we were scoring very quickly, and they were stringing together long drives, and I think it maybe would have made it even more difficult had we been able to really control time of possession better. Obviously, when you're busting off 70-yard runs,
you're not complaining. Yeah,
it's not really hard to. Yeah, it's pretty difficult to even out that time of possession, and it's not really a factor. But I don't, not to dive too deep into that whole Florida missing players and didn't care storyline, but that missing linebacker was not worth 35 points.
Absolutely.
Like you gave up 55 points. I don't know what your plan was to win and also give up 55 points. So
it just makes no sense, honestly. It's plain excuses. We've seen it all throughout the SEC's history. Anytime they lose a bowl game, that they shouldn't have lost, they say they don't care. Every time they win it, they're excited. Look, if Cincinnati would have pulled off that win against Georgia, they would have acted like they don't care. But as we saw from when they actually won, and Kirby Smart rushes the field and they all mob in the end zone, hey, guess what? They cared. It's so obnoxious to me. And we don't need to get into it because, again, Dan Mullen and the Florida Gators are irrelevant here. Whatever they did, it's irrelevant. It's done. They lost. They can make whatever excuses they want. It's not going to change the final score, and it's not going to help them in the future. It's done. It's over. So let's move on.
Yeah, and Dan Mullen needs to move on too. He needs to leave Florida after that. It's plain and simple, and I think he should. I really do think I think he should. First of all, an embarrassment of a performance. Second of all, an embarrassment of a post game. Third of all, they probably got a bunch of recruiting or whatever violations hitting on him, and he wants to get out of town. So I think Dan Mullen moves on to the NFL here with 6, 7 head coaching opportunities he has. But honestly, embarrassment.
Yeah, I will say.
Ty, you go for it.
Let me go real quick. Yeah, so I will say I don't even want to jump into the post game comments. I mean, because it's whatever. They at the end of the day, what you say after the game doesn't matter. It's what you do on the field. And that's really what I think that there's a lot of blame to be laid on his shoulders for this performance. I think Florida could have scored more than they did. I don't think they could have won. But I don't think that it would have been a blowout with a garbage time touchdown to clean it up like it was had they kept with their backup quarterback as soon as they put him in. It just didn't make sense to me. Like, just watching the game, I was constantly going, what are they doing? Like, they would put their backup in. He'd be able to run. He was throwing just as well as Trask was at the time. But with an additional run threat, it was not something that OU had game planned for. It was completely different. They were stringing together good. They strung together an awesome drive with the backup and then put Trask in right at the end to mess it up. Like, it was just absurd to me why they wouldn't just stick to one thing. Like, Dan Mullen he just completely mentally shut down, it seemed like, game plan wise, and they were just constantly trying something different and never giving anything enough time to succeed. And then when things were working, they didn't stick with it. It was the craziest thing to me watching. I was seriously, I wasn't rooting for them to do any better, but I was very confused by some of the decisions that he was making there. And that is no one else's fault but the head coach, that you just keep swapping quarterbacks, changing up schemes, and ignoring things that are working to try to keep doing things that are failing you.
It was one of the worst coaching performances I've seen front to back. From the second they stepped out there to the post game, awful. The strategy, awful. The preparation, awful. They clearly were not prepared to play OU. I don't know what they were doing before, but they didn't have a game plan in place. The second they got hit in the mouth, they panicked and pulled their Heisman quarterback. And let's be real. Look, when you call your team that is full of 4 and 5 stars a bunch of scout teamers, especially these players who have, many of which, believe it or not, were starters the whole year. And even if you're second string, these are your future starters. To call them scout team, it's insulting to them. It's insulting to the players that you have on your roster. It's insulting to the people who have worked their ass off the entire season. It's just, I can only imagine. I honestly feel bad for the Florida players who had to hear that, to be demeaned like that. I would much rather just have your coach say, we just got beat. We tried our best and we got beat. Other than make a bunch of excuses and demean the people on your roster that fought, that stepped up and played in this game, to call them scout team, to call them the real team, like their last game was 11 days ago. Like, that's demeaning to the people who left their families, who put their bodies on the line, who played a game during a pandemic, and you're going to call them scout team? You're going to demean them like that? Get out of here, Dan Mullen. It's a disgrace. And he said a lot of dumb stuff this season, but that by far is the dumbest, most ridiculous thing I've heard out of a head coach that I've maybe ever heard. It's insulting towards this program. It's insulting towards his players. and it frankly is just an abomination of college football. Just just opt out of the game if you truly felt that way. Yeah. Otherwise, you're just get out of here.
Yeah, and this is comparison also. We played Mike Gundy earlier. We played Mike Gundy in Oklahoma State earlier. Yeah. So this is quite this. Like, we had.
I didn't know what OAN was.
Mike Gundy was bad. That was a really, really. Remember punting on the 38 or whatever that was? That was bad. And then Dan Mullen said, "Okay, what's going on, guys? I'm here. Let me do that." And you don't see Florida players hitting the portal right now. And after that comment, damn right, I'd be thinking in the portal. And that's why I really do think that he's got eyes towards the NFL. And I think I saw a report somewhere on Twitter about that. But we don't have to dive into that.
Jameson's going to accidentally get a monkey paw Dan Mullen at the Los Angeles Chargers here.
That's not what I want. It's exactly what I didn't want to hear. We already interviewed Jason Garrett, so I don't want to talk.
Who knows what his who knows what his relationship is with his players and in the locker room. His comments, maybe weren't seen as insulting to his players, but I think that they definitely, whether it's conscious or not, were visible to a lot of future players. And that's really, I think, what I've been saying this game was about, at least in my opinion, is that recruiting legitimacy. And we saw, Dan Mullen's performance and then comments are kind of, attacking this whole idea of this SEC depth thing. If your second and third string players are getting stomped like that, then maybe there isn't a lot of depth. Also, the SEC East isn't the SEC, so there's that to consider. But I think it's another thing, even if his current players didn't feel disrespected by those comments, you're going to have to wonder how, someone that is maybe going to be under him in the future feels about those comments, whether they're aware of it or not. They might see, the difference in personality and think, oh, I don't want to go, there if I'm not going to be respected, unless I'm a Heisman candidate. I think a lot of kids coming in think that they will be, and not wrongfully so, but, everyone, I think, wants to be at least respected by their coach. And to hear a coach talk about his, guys that aren't always his starters. And like we said, a lot of them were the starters, including that quarterback was not like their backup that's been there for forever. I believe the kid is a freshman and is a super highly touted recruit and is considered like the future of their program. So it's, imagine last year, if Hurts had been out or something and Rattler had to play a game and we lost, and then Lincoln Riley went out there and said, "Oh, well, I mean, it was our scout team quarterback." Like, how would you feel about that statement? Like, it's absurd.
It really is ridiculous, and I honestly don't even want to give any more time to Dan Mullen. But we definitely had to address it. To be fair, if there's any other coach we should address, we'll probably address him at the end. Was not involved in this game. Was recently in the state of Texas, but we'll get to that.
Is it Lane Kiffin?
Oh. Maybe not. Maybe not Lane Kiffin. Excellent guess, though. One last note on the Cotton Bowl. One of my favorite OU football moments. I thought it was remarkable. The Malcolm Kelly rap being broken out at the trophy ceremony was just really cool. I loved that.
Yeah.
Jameson, like, what is the legacy of that rap kind of? And what does that do for recruiting that it really shows this bond, I guess?
I'm surprised how many of them knew it. There's a couple people like the little kid in the choir and like kindergarten that were kind of mouthing the words, acting like they did know it, just throwing some hand signals. But, it was honestly really surprising. It was a really, really cool moment. And then on Twitter, you saw like people that weren't even OU people that knew the song. It's more famous than I thought it was. I thought it was just an OU following. So honestly, really, really cool moment and something that I was very surprised to see.
It is kind of funny in 2020, hearing people rap about Kevin Sumlin and Bob Stoops. It's a very 2006. If you really listen to the lyrics, it's very, very tailored to a weird year in OU football. Talking about Paul Thompson and Alan Patrick, for God's sake. If you really analyze lyrics, that it's funny that of all years, produced an icon in OU football. Ty, your thoughts on the Alan Patrick rap? Are you a fan?
Yeah. So I'm not
Paul Thompson, not Paul Thompson. Shoot, Malcolm Kelly.
Malcolm Kelly. Yeah.
I got my 2006. I got my 2006 Sooners just blended in my head like a mess.
It's okay. It's cool to see, in my opinion. I've never been super I'm not anti the rap. I never thought it was as cool as some people think it is. Just I think it was just because I didn't really care about OU football at the time. I didn't really start to care about OU football until like 6th grade. So it was, sort of before my time. So a lot of my super fondest, earliest memories of OU football are like Sam Bradford stuff was that timeline. So I never had this big attachment to the rap, but I really enjoy it for the same reason that I just absolutely love every time that OU has like a player in the Heisman ceremony is where a lot of people see it as well, is this family sense of OU and this sort of heritage and this at least awareness of our history that we have at OU culturally is amazing. And I understand we have a super rich tradition. And I'm sure that players at Notre Dame know their history, and I'm sure that players at other places know their history as well. But, when you see an OU guy at the Heisman ceremony, unfortunately, we don't see a lot of the recent winners there, but you got Billy Sims and his Walmart OU blazer just screaming Boomer the whole time to where they have to mute him. And stuff like that is just amazing to see. And to see guys that know this, rap from 20 years ago now, is super, super cool. And, the King, Barry Switzer, lives right off of campus, and Bob Stoops, other former coach, still connected with the program and stuff. And that's super, super huge, I think, for a lot of guys, recruiting wise, that care about a sort of family atmosphere. And Lincoln Riley fits right into that as well. This he's a family guy, and people see that. And I think that it's not only important for recruiting, but it's just important overall, like this sense of belonging and this sense of meaning. To be able to be like, yeah, I was an OU football player, I was connected with the OU football program, means something, even on the years when we aren't good. We know our history, and the players know that history. And you see it in our equipment staff, and things like that even as well. So it is super cool. And I think it's sort of indicative of a greater, super, super awesome cultural thing that OU has just sort of had forever. And it's great to see that continuing.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's a really cool deal that honestly I didn't know it was a thing until Twitter. It popped up once, and I was just like, "Wait, what in the world?" I had no idea this even existed. It's wonderful. I do got to acknowledge the point in the rap where he tries to say Nebraska Cornhuskers, stumbles and says Nebraska Hornhuskers, is so cringy. It's brutal, and I don't want to be the one to say it. But it makes me cringe every time I hear the rap. And you could tell they didn't know what to say whenever it came up when they were redoing it. They're trying to say, half people were trying to say Florida Gators. The other half were trying to say Nebraska Hornhuskers. It was a mess.
That's just awesome to show the fall off of Nebraska football, that people don't even know what they're called. Not only have they just been not relevant whatsoever for several years, it's gotten to the point that people literally don't even know what the team is called anymore. I can't imagine reaching a point of irrelevance where people forget what your team is even called.
Good God. Well, hey, in 2021, the Nebraska Hornhuskers, we will diminish again. So maybe they bring it back after we beat Nebraska next year, assuming the Big Ten, gets their stuff together and puts together a normal season. But anyways, that's a wrap on the Cotton Bowl. Anything y'all want to say before we move on to the off season?
No. Man.
This is like pressing the X button after you won your bowl game in NCAA 14.
Did I zone out, or did we just completely not cover the offense besides running backs?
And it's what all that matters. The past game, we dropped a couple balls and the receivers did the same thing they usually do.
I think we went. So we talked about the run, and then we went down a rabbit hole.
Well,
we each gave a 5-minute monologue on Dan Mullen.
let me give you like a fast track then.
Rattler good, receivers bad.
Theo Wease dropped balls. Rattler threw dimes. Mims got a touchdown, didn't show up. Stogner showed up again because he had a staph infection in his quad. This whole the entire time? What the hell happened there?
He had strep throat in his quad. Sounds fake.
Jameson, I'd love for you to go fantasy doctors on that one. What the hell happened?
Medical corner.
Yeah, right. So the bacteria, once it gets into your blood, it can travel anywhere on your body. And think about staph infections. It can go to your skin, and create an infection there. And there's sometimes where it can do things where it just completely eats, skin eating bacteria, flesh eating bacteria. You heard that, similar of that. So essentially, it was an upper respiratory thing that traveled to his blood down to an area of trauma that made it weak and susceptible for colonization of bacteria. And it invaded the quad muscle and essentially created an abscess that had to be go in surgically, drain it, and then given antibiotics and slowly return to play as that abscess heals on its own.
That sounds bad. That sounds very bad.
Yeah, it can be really bad because, if you don't catch it early and that bacteria stays in your blood, you see it on the Thunder commercials all the time. Sepsis, that's what can happen. It's a blood infection. Your blood pressure skyrockets and down and you're toast. So we're glad that we caught it early. And, it's a rare thing. So they said it was strep, some people said it was staph, it's really doesn't matter.
It was staph. It was staph.
Yeah, I think Holly Rose said it was strep, and that's really rare. Staph is more common. So I don't care about that. Yeah, I don't care about that. It doesn't really matter. But all it was is that it's a bacteria that came from the upper part, went down to the lower part.
Yeah, it sounds like a mess. I do not want to think about it or visualize it. So let's hit the X button on our season of Dynasty mode and move on to the offseason. And we're here to talk about guys we've lost to the draft, guys we've lost to the transfer portal. Let's just get it started. Creed, Jameson, I know you have the full list, so I'm actually going to let you go on this one instead of me using my kind of crappy truncated one.
Yeah, let's talk NFL departures first. I feel like that's a little bit more optimistic. Creed Humphrey, like you were saying, one of the best centers, if not the best center in the nation. I saw a mock draft today that had him project first round. He's going to be a big guy moving forward, losing because he was a captain on this offense, and our other captain was Patrick Fields. So I don't know how much leadership's there, but we're going to need another guy to step up on the offense and be that big leader. And we have a center in the making that we can replace him with, with Chris Murray. But Creed was a very, very big guy for being solid. He's been there before. He's played since he was a freshman, and he's just a good guy.
Yeah, and I think this was, honestly, we thought this was going to happen. This is a shock, I would say.
Definitely. And, I mean, Chris Murray is a good replacement. We've been clamoring for him to get in for the last part of the season because of our guard play. But, yeah, he'll slot right into center. And if he doesn't play center and he wants to play guard instead, Andrew Rame, it could be a great center prospect moving forward as well. A guy that we thought all along before we got Chris Murray was going to be the replacement center. So this will be just a-okay.
Yeah, it was a part of the process. We should have been and will be ready for this. We knew this going honestly all along that Creed was probably NFL bound. We could have told you that in September, I think. But
no, yeah, and I do want to say on Creed before we move on, he could have gone to the NFL last year, and just for his draft stock, maybe should have. Just looking at the hype that he had last year versus, some of the rougher situations he's been in this year. So I think, I'm not going to have comments on everyone that's leaving, but Creed, I really want to touch on, like we said, Oklahoma dude, from the state, been an OU fan, wanted to play at OU, started as a freshman, could have gone to the draft last year and stayed. purely to be a good teammate. We could not have asked more from Creed. So I think it's awesome to see him go. Bittersweet, sad we're losing him, but he will do greater things in the NFL for himself, and I thank you to Creed from the Schooner Pod for everything that he's done for OU, because he's been a great player, and he's been a true teammate for our guys, and a true leader. So Creed gets a special shout out for sure.
He gets the Schooner Pod Golden Wheel Award for, I guess, favorite player. I don't know. I just made that up on the fly. Good job, Creed.
Schooner Pod, I don't know. There's got to be something.
The Golden Wheel.
The Wagon Yoke Award for Outstanding Lineman of the Year. Last awarded to Phil Lodeholt. But we're bringing it back for Creed.
There we go. 10-year-old me was 100% like just dropping like podcasts about Phil.
Yeah,
Lodeholt.
You guys don't know about that. They're recorded on GameCube. We lost the memory card for them, unfortunately.
They're there. We promise. Oh man, we recorded it all on Xbox Live for the. Anyways, Creed, excellent performance. Out of Shawnee, Oklahoma. So awesome for Central Oklahoma there to have a guy going pro. Should have a long, illustrious career. In the league. I didn't realize he played H-back in high school, which makes me, honestly laugh thinking of Creed Humphrey running around, and I don't know. That just sounds really funny to me. But a true dedication to the program. One of the greatest centers in Oklahoma history. And he'll be missed, but that's a part of the program. This is what you want. You want guys to go to the league. Good job on Creed for sure. But that's enough about a guy that we knew was leaving. Anyways, Jameson, a couple surprises going to the NFL this season. I believe at the top of the list, Adrian Ely and Trey Norwood. Talk a little bit about those two.
Yeah, Adrian Ely had a chance to come back next season. Especially with the offensive line being really weak this year. We saw Creed, we were talking about it earlier, and maybe his draft stock maybe took a hit a little bit. And, the run on centers, offensive linemen at the end of the first round, it happened. Cesar Ruiz last year, so I don't think he takes it. Adrian Ely, I don't know why he wants to go to the NFL draft. I would have came back and tried to be more solid, but, maybe he just doesn't think he can be any better than he was this year. I thought he was just a very average guy. He could be, Bobby Evans level when it comes down to draft stock. And Bobby Evans is getting a lot of play for the Los Angeles Rams. So that would be a best case scenario for Adrian Ely moving forward. And also with Trey Norwood, I alluded to it earlier in the podcast. This is his time. It's the completely opposite thing of Adrian Ely. He played really well to end the season. How much better can you do than Trey Norwood played in these past couple weeks? The amount of interceptions playing is going to pop on the stat sheet. And all he needs is people to take a look at him, and then that's enough for you to get drafted if somebody catches their eyes with the interception numbers.
Yeah, exactly. Like he definitely peaked a bit, and this is a good spot for him to leave. I do think he could have. I don't know. Maybe I'm overly optimistic if he came back another year, but he definitely ended on a high note. If you told me in October that he was going to, declare for the draft, I'd say he was insane. But really, his performances spoke for themselves down the end. As for Ely, definitely not lineman that it could have benefited him. And I'm probably just regurgitating your takes here because they're right, but definitely didn't see that coming. Good luck to him. Hopefully he has learned enough. I don't know if he'll go high in the draft, but I think he has the skill set to improve and grow, and hopefully does that with an NFL roster. I just feel like it's a little safer to do that at home in Norman.
Yeah, definitely. And, Adrian Ely could have been better, but you never know what would happen next year. So the last guy that's leaving for the NFL, Trey Brown, he opted out. We talked about that. Trey Brown's going to turn heads whenever he goes to pro day. He has highlights on his highlight tape. He can make a really good highlight tape with all of his big plays. And he's going to go out and run a really fast 40. So he's going to get drafted. And even if we do think that he does have a little bit of lapse when it comes down to one-on-one man coverage, people will draft you just for speed. You need speed corners in this league, even if you aren't good at man. They will always have a spot in the NFL. So
he
should be just fine there.
The ghost of Al Davis will give him a high draft grade. Yeah. He sounds like an Oakland Raider right there for you, I guess. But other than the guys we know are going to the draft, and Ty, I'll get your take on the guys who we know are going. Who do you see potentially of the guys who have not yet declared? Who do you think is most likely to go?
It's Ramondre. So I don't know if Ty was supposed to go here. I don't know if you're talking to me, but yeah, it's Ramondre. Ramondre's number one. It's very for sure. If you're talking about guys that can they do any better than they have, you can't get much better than Ramondre into the season. He goes out and shows us a full season of work of what he did again at the end of the season next season. All it is losing 1 year shelf life on a running back, and people want young running backs. So he's got to go now. He has not declared that he's going to the NFL draft, not announced. He has 13 more days to do so. What's the date on that? Let me get the date on that. Make sure I got that right. January 18th. So yes, 13 more days to declare. And same thing as Ronnie Perkins. I feel like Ronnie Perkins would just be a notch below that. How can he do any better? The only thing that Ronnie Perkins has on his side is if he comes back, he joins the whole defensive line class essentially coming back. And the way they dominated half the end of the season, they can do, again, run it back on even lesser opponents now, assuming they get better and other people lose players,
Yeah, I will say this. I think you're right. Exactly right with Ramondre. He should go now. With running backs, you get a lot of wear on that tread. You get a lot of wear on that. You have such a short life, or like NFL life as a running back. Barry Sanders only played 10 years, for God's sake, and he never got hit. So if you're Ramondre Stevenson, who's a bit of a bruiser, goal line specialist, go now. I think Ronnie Perkins, the only reason he would hold out is if he really felt confident in getting like a top 5 draft grade, like some elite early money grade. But I don't know. We'll see. Ty, what are your thoughts on the guys who are, one, going to the draft, and 2, might go to the draft?
Yeah, so I think this one kind of applies to I think almost all of them, and it's that if you can get the money, take the money. A lot of them, no disrespect, but most of OU's football players didn't come to OU to play school, and you can't really, if you're good, you can't really hurt them for that. I mean, you come to a university to increase your job prospects in the future, to make better money than you would otherwise. That's really what it's about. And for some people, that education is done via a degree from one of the various colleges, and for some people it's done on the football field. And if you can come into OU, if you can come into school and spend 2 or 3 years here, and someone offers you a job at several $100,000 a year, yeah, take it for sure. Absolutely take it. Nothing's going to stop you from coming back and getting your degree in the future if you so wish. So you can always stay to increase your job prospects if possible. But ultimately, for these individual guys, they have a passion for the game, but it's also their job. And that's why they came to OU in the most part. None of them would have come to OU otherwise. And they come here, to play for a team, which they've done. And now they're off to develop their professional careers. And I don't think anyone can really, knock anyone for that. I think Stevenson, like you guys said, absolutely is going to go to the draft. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm about 99% sure he's a 2015 high school graduate. So he is already, he's at least 23, if not 24. And he has had a tremendous showing this year in this last half of the season. Tons of of highlight reels, tons of outstanding plays, and tons of national recognition. I really don't know that he could help himself anymore by staying and continuing to play football for free. And just again, he's a running back, like you said, like you guys said, the shelf life is not extremely long, and he takes hard hits. And I don't think that he should stay, honestly. And I don't think, it might hurt OU a little bit that he leaves, but he's given us his all. Grinded his way up from the JUCO leagues to OU, and then grinded his way up from like fourth string running back last year at the start, just getting awesome garbage time plays to where he is now. And I don't think he should stay because I don't think he has a lot more to gain. He has tons of national recognition, an amazing highlight reel, and an amazing storyline already. I don't think he gains anything by staying. I think it helps OU, but I don't think he should. I think he's just wearing his body for another year and risking injury. So I think that he will declare. I would expect that, and I really think he should. And I think he'll be outstanding in the NFL.
And frankly, no disrespect to Ramondre, but I don't think he's an everyday or every down back. He's not going to he's never going to be we know that. He's never going to be in he's never going to be an Ezekiel Elliott, type of guy who you run every down, but he's going to make some serious money as, a power back who can catch the ball out of the backfield and, really slam it into the end zone. Like Garrett Blunt type.
There is a place for him. Yeah. And that's something I said earlier. There is a place for him. I don't think he's ever going to be anyone's, RB1. And that's not, a knock on him whatsoever. I think he is very specialized in his role in terms of being a running back. When you look at it NFL wise, this year we were a little short on experience, definitely not talent. I think we saw, but we were short on experience. And he really filled the role of an everything running back. And if anything, that helps his, game knowledge, and it helps his sort of football resume. But I think when he goes to the NFL, which he will regardless, barring any sort of injury, knock on wood. But he fills a very, a sort of specialized role, and that's not a bad thing whatsoever. That is a great thing because there are, there's only room for a few stars, but everyone is always going to need, that sort of power running and stuff that he really does well, almost fullback style running, but from the halfback position and then able to catch and has a good, great decision making running wise this year. I think outstanding, and that's, I think we could talk about him for forever.
Absolutely.
So he's not an everyday superstar, the main back, but there is absolutely a role for him, and I think he's really gonna make a lot of money.
Without a doubt, and he should. He definitely has earned it. Incredible, 2-year career from Ramondre Stevenson. If we don't see him again, that's totally fine. We doff our cap to him. Let's move on to the transfers. Quite a bit of Sooners entered the transfer portal. Jameson, I have my little list. Give us our list of who we've lost to the almighty portal.
Let's just quick fire through all of these, and I'll just say them all, and we can kind of pick what we want to talk about. So out of quarterbacks, Tanner Mordecai going to SMU, Chandler Morris to TCU, RIP. We're sad, but we saw that coming from a mile away. Running back, TJ Pledger. We don't know where he's going. No rumors yet. Wide receiver, Finn Corwin. I guess he will want to go with his buddy Chandler Morris, another Highland Park kid, walk on. He caught one touchdown with OU, doesn't matter. Jalen Conyers, was a big-time 2020 recruit tight end that we were really excited about. Never got in the whole season this year. It was very disappointing. Seems like he just didn't catch it. He's going to join Herm Edwards at Arizona State. Then moving this defensive side, or we forgot Charleston Rambo. Kind of an afterthought, so who knows where he'll go, but good for him. Defense side, John Michael Terry, once great rush position for us. Once he got hurt, you lost it to Nick Benito and Ugwebu, and Nick Benito obviously solidified that spot as his own with no one coming in the backup. And then Robert Barnes, we saw have a great game versus Baylor, but can't really find his spot here. And then Stevenson Johnson, our backup kicker, is gone. He played really well whenever Burkic overslept the game, I guess.
Overslept.
Yeah, but JK, just COVID. But yeah,
sure.
the big one for me, I know we're gonna hit on is Chandler Morris. But I'll say one thing. It's a really big disappointment. Jalen Conyers didn't get more snaps. I feel like tight end is a position that we're kind of weak at when it comes down to the young guys right now. It's kind of stagnant or bust. Jeremiah Hall and Braden Willis are good, but I don't know if they're true tight ends. And Jalen Conyers could have been a Mark Andrews type of player. So, moving forward, hopefully we can maybe find a transfer. I will say this before I forget. I know I'm going long. Ari Gilbert, everyone's freaking out over him. The LSU 5-star entered the transfer portal, but he did say he wants to go closer to home, which is in Georgia. So I have no expectation for him coming to OU as a transfer.
Are you saying Scrappy Dogs?
Yes. Give him to Scrappy. No, you probably go to Georgia. He's too good.
You'll probably go to UGA. Be a star at Scrappy Dogs. Go to Georgia Tech. We need it.
Calvin Johnson.
What's that?
Georgia Tech is not Scrappy Dogs.
Georgia Tech is definitely Scrappy Dogs.
Okay, I know they are by definition. They were like 2-7 against the spread this year.
I don't even know where Blake got that from, but I loved it. Overall, it's a bummer to see some of these guys leave. I think more than anything, it hurts our depth because, again, especially when you look at the quarterbacks, Chandler Morris and Mordecai were never going to get first-team burn without injury to Rattler or, in the future, it's just not going to happen. So the path wasn't there for them. I get that. And we're going to see some fun iron skillet games between the two. As you're going to have one going to SMU and one going to TCU. So that's going to be a blast. I think it'll be interesting to see where Charleston Rambo goes. And I know that seems like I guess a bit of a hit on the surface level as we've seen him play quite a bit the past couple of years. But this is a wide receiver group that is going to get incredibly crowded with Mario Williams coming in. And then obviously you have Bridges and Hazelwood coming back, healthy or / not snake bitten by the NCAA. So it's going to be it'll be harder for Rambo to get a lot of PT, which is totally fine. So I think that was definitely the right move for him. I think he's maxed out his time here. If he was ever going to have a year to blow up, it would have been this one, and he didn't. So the best move is change of scenery for Rambo there. But it's just something you just kind of got to roll with. This is the nature of college football, and sometimes you get a ton, sometimes you lose a ton. I wouldn't be super burned or upset about it, but Ty, your thoughts on the portal?
Yeah, I think one, I think the portal is a great thing overall for college football. I think it creates, awesome situations in terms of developing individuals. Cause ultimately, like I talked about, I think of college football very much like another, it's almost a vocational education at a university. A lot less chance of it materializing into a career than other vocational university level things, but ultimately I think we're doing our society a whole a better by developing as many people as we can in as many ways as we can, and for a lot of people that means going somewhere where they can be maybe not the star, but going somewhere that's the best for them. And people don't necessarily always make the right decision in high pressure situations right out of high school. And a lot of guys maybe commit to schools that they isn't the best school or the best environment for them. And I'm not saying that's happening with any of these guys, but I think the freedom of movement is a good thing.
Absolutely.
As a whole, for sure. And I don't think, we lost great dudes. No disrespect to them, but I don't think that, nothing that we lost was significant or really going to hinder us or impact us negatively in any way, really. I'm excited to see what these guys go and do. at other spots. OU has a proud history of people transferring elsewhere and then being successful. Guys like Marcus Dupree, Troy Aikman.
Marcus Dupree transferring to the USFL.
Anyways. No, the first
God.
one was a joke, but yeah.
I know. It's still
yeah,
funny.
so I don't have anything really specific. But yeah, I hope everyone that is leaving the best, just like the guys going to the NFL. I hope them the best. But don't worry if you're an OU fan. We're not losing anything that we can't, replace or make up for sure.
Absolutely. And, we all wish them the best of luck. But we'd also be remiss if we didn't talk about the guys who are staying. Perion Winfrey has already confirmed to be staying another season, a massive part of the defensive line. Isaiah Thomas said he was coming back, of course, but I don't think he could have left in the first place, but I'm not really sure on that. He seems like he's set. He keeps talking about next year. That seems good. Nick Benito, while he has not confirmed, has talked a lot about next year. While we have heard reports that doesn't necessarily mean he's staying. Look, if you're talking about next year and going at him again and going for a national championship, I would say that trends more towards the positive of him staying than the negative of him leaving. And then you also have Amani Bledsoe, I believe. I don't know if I mentioned him. Also staying.
Bro, what are you talking about? That dude plays on the Cincinnati Bengals.
Rats. Who did I mix up then? Who is that? Oh no, I mixed up my O lineman. Who's the guy who said he was coming back?
I don't know.
A lot of them.
Jalen Redmond will be coming back on the defensive line, arguably our best defensive lineman in the season 4. Amani Bledsoe has been 2 years in the pro, but he's decided to come back. Marquise Hayes said he's coming back.
Hayes. It's Marquise Hayes. I mixed up Marquise Hayes and Amani Bledsoe.
Bledsoe, very similar.
I don't know. Amani and Marquise, that's where I got mixed up. I'm an idiot. I should retire right now, honestly. Good Lord. That was awful. We're not even a last name podcast anymore. We're just a no name podcast. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. But the defense also got Caleb Kelly too, Maybe there'll be something there. Maybe throw him at the backup rush behind Benito. Give him something new. That'd be something. Jalen Redmond, like I was saying, I want to make sure we put this in there. Jalen Redmond was so good for us. And if you can come out and just be a little bit of that as a change of pace guy at the defensive tackle position, that is ginormous for us, So say if Ronnie Perkins leaves, we move Isaiah Thomas back out to defensive end where we started him at the beginning of the year where he was stellar. And we can put Jalen Redmond right in that defensive tackle next to Perion Winfrey at the nose. And it's going to be, once again, a stellar defensive line with Benito on the outside. Also, Eric Swinson has decided to come back for what seems to be maybe his 6th season. I don't know. Who knows if Bill Beatenbaugh will give him another start at the left tackle. I doubt it. But some reason Eric Swinson wants to come back. And Mark, you mentioned Marquise Hayes. But those are big deal. And there's no doubt that we're going to also get some transfers from the portal.
I also feel like we're missing Kennedy Brooks.
Oh, and Kennedy Brooks too. I also forgot Kennedy Brooks. It's the biggest one.
Yeah, absolutely. If Kennedy Brooks played this year, I really think this season probably goes differently. A remarkable running back, as we've noted many times. I've, for a long time, said I thought he was better than Sermon at times. Might have been totally wrong. Sermon's proving me wrong. But, that's a huge addition. So there are additions coming back to the subtractions. Don't just look at the negative. But anyways.
It's huge with Kennedy Brooks. Huge. Because, Ramondre Steven most likely being gone. I even after the bowl game, I'm not sure on Marcus Major. I'm still not sure Seth McGowan's ready to take the play as the number 1 guy. Kennedy Brooks can come in and do that. And we'll see if he takes a step back from taking the year off. But otherwise, we have a veteran running back is exactly what we need. With the transfer market, I was saying we will get guys look probably at offensive tackle, even, with Swinson coming back, Ely's gone. I feel like we're going to look at offensive tackle because that might have been probably our weakest position this year. Outside of beginning of the year nickelback. We'll look at running back too. See if we can find anyone there. Probably a wide receiver as well. Maybe a safety because our safety play was also pretty weak at free safety. But yeah, there's going to be more guys. And the thing is with the portal this year is it's really easy to go online and check who's in the portal right now and see, oh, maybe we can get this guy and that guy. We saw with Chandler Morris is they figure out where they're going before they get in the portal. If you are a big-time guy that's going to come out and make an impact on OU's team next year, you are going to be doing back channel talks, figure out you want to come to OU, then you enter the portal, and then a day later you come to OU. So if there's anyone out there that you're looking at, I bet you OU's already turned that stone and they might not be interested, So unless they're like a really low-end guy at a small school. So don't expect, some guy sit in the portal for a long time, bitch that he's not coming and OU's not looking at him.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's going to be interesting how it all plays out. We'll be with you as it goes through the offseason, albeit a little, less frequent. But before we really break the season off, what's that, Ty?
I had one last comment on the transfer portal. We can't not mention that fifth-year senior, I think. Is he fifth-year senior?
Who?
Fifth-year senior, Austin
Not
Kendall.
Monty Bledsoe.
Austin Kendall transferring from West Virginia.
Austin Kendall using his extra year of eligibility to transfer somewhere.
Oh, man. I hope he finds a good
Classic.
spot.
I
hope
think
he
he's
does
got 2 years of eligibility left now that I think about it.
He does.
He did the third-year graduation.
Dude might do the he might get the he might go to Oklahoma State and continue with their long line of 30-plus-year-old college football quarterbacks.
Oh my God. Pull a Chris Winkie or something.
He needs to go to some bad school because obviously he was shown as a fraud.
Dude, he needs to go to the Pack. He would shine.
Oh God.
Send him. Okay, I did see that Boko got a transfer quarterback, but send him to Boko.
Hear me out.
Appalachian State, Austin Kendall. I would buy that jersey.
Mississippi State, Austin Kendall under Mike Leach.
Oh my God.
It's plausible. Anyways, I'll cut the rabbit.
Coastal Carolina, Austin Kendall. That's the best Austin Kendall.
No, because their quarterback's a freshman, right?
Never mind. Then it is App State, Austin Kendall. But anyways, before we enter the off season, let's just start off our ambitions, our thoughts for the next season.
National championship.
It's national championship or bust, right? It really, truly is.
Not even trolling. That's it. That's where the standard is.
It's not trolling. That is this year. We have not been this set up for a national championship since 2017. This has been the moment we've been waiting for years. The moment we've circled since the Schooner pod even started, for that matter. We thought this would be the year, as in the upcoming year. And not the year we played Florida's JV team. No, this is like the year we always thought, circle it. This is the year it's going to come together for Oklahoma. National championship or bust? Jameson, what do you think?
It has to be because I'm just going to go very quickly through the roster and think about what we thought about this beforehand. This is Spencer Rattler's last year before his draft eligibility. Kennedy Brooks will be his last year. Offensive linemen as well. All of our stud 2018 wide receiver class. I understand they flopped since then a little bit in Ty's books. They're still got a lot to prove, but this would be their draft eligibility year. Defensive line, all returning. If Ronnie Perkins comes back, if not, still one of the best defensive lines in the country. Ugwebu will be draft eligible after the year, along with Deshaun White and Brian Asamoah. And we have a veteran cornerbacks that will not be draft eligible, and their youngest guys. But DJ Graham and Woody Washington have shown to be those guys that can be our future cornerback. This is our year. We have so many guys that could leave the following year that this is the year we have to do it. And I don't want it to be a 1 year bust kind of LSU thing, but I would take that happily.
Absolutely. It's been 20 years since we've won a national championship. And frankly, the schedule sets up. We have at Tulane, which is going to be a blast if it's played and is allowed to have fans. New Orleans trip, that'd be great. We have Nebraska coming back to Norman, who is a Power 5 team, but we should beat the brakes off of. Texas is in free fall. Iowa State, while they are getting Brock Purdy back, is a fraud. I'm going to go ahead and say that right now. We're going to start the Iowa State is a fraud campaign right now. We're starting early, folks.
Is Matt Campbell still a coward?
Oh, God.
No, he's not. Because, okay, so just a quick sidetrack. The entire Matt Campbell is a coward storyline is based on the fact that he was afraid to go to the NFL. I think we've now seen that his NFL stock has dropped significantly.
Well, it's not Luke Fickell.
Yeah. He's a much better coach than Fickell. I think we've seen Campbell can at least close games and win them sometimes. But yeah, it was all based around his NFL stock and his unwillingness to go to the NFL because he knew that he wouldn't succeed there because he was a coward, too cowardly to do that. But I don't think his NFL stock is where it once was. So I don't think he's as much of a coward currently for not going to the NFL. Just because he doesn't really have offers currently that I'm aware of.
Fair enough. But, we have Iowa State at home, TCU at home. That shouldn't do anything. I'm not worried about Bedlam on the road.
TCU is always a home game. Anything in Dallas-Fort Worth is also a home game for OU.
We basically own that city at this point. We really do. The schedule lines up good for Oklahoma. Got to get past those pesky Kansas State Wildcats, although I doubt there's any way we look past them after the past year. We've never
beat Kansas State. I'm enrolled for the fall. We've never beat Kansas State with me as a student. So if I have to drop out for us to win the Natty, I will, I guess.
We need to enroll Ty in oceanography again. That's how we get him out. just start loading him up with bad courses. Like I don't know, like Space and You and like some crazy stuff, and that's how you get. There we go. He's got to take one. He's got to take an arrow to the knee.
Yeah.
But look, I probably said this every year since 2001. This is the year. This next year is the year, folks. We're winning it. It's coming home. But guys, it's been such a fun season. Season 3 of the Schooner Pod. And I can't wait to do the off season with y'all, and we'll see where it goes. But in general, it's just been a blast, and always a true pleasure and a true delight to talk OU football. So I'm gonna ask, and this is I guess your final words on 2020. Anything you have to say?
Yeah, I'll say. Got to give it up to Bobby. How much effort he put in making the banners, making this go live, the recruiting corner edits, all of that kind of stuff. Is top-notch recruiting and top-notch podcasting, and I really appreciate everything you've done. It's been so fun. So I'm glad to be back for the full season, and let's keep on moving forward.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jameson. And you can find Jameson on the Fantasy Doctors for all of your fantasy basketball needs. So check that out.
Basketball specifically, looking at you.
Specifically,
Elliot, or whatever his name.
Specifically fantasy basketball. Hey, you can also check him out and myself out on boomtownhoops.com. We do all of our post-game shows for Thunder basketball. If you're into the sort of Thunder thing, I know we have a couple Mavs fans out there, but we do some good stuff on there. So if you miss us weekly, check us out there. Ty, your final thoughts on Schooner Pod Season 3. Your second season.
Same as Jameson. Thanks for having me for another year. I had a blast. It's something that I look forward to each week. I hope that you guys, the other hosts do, and I hope that our growing number of fans do as well. So yeah, thanks Jameson for letting me, co-host with him. Like I've done these past couple of years. And then, again, Bobby, thanks for having me and all the work you put in, for sure.
Absolutely, man. Hey, thank both of y'all for your just, awesome perspectives. I love how unique both of y'all and you all are. And it really this has been probably my favorite season yet. And it's a true culmination of what we built. And Looking forward to season 3. But I doubt y'all want to hear us wax poetically for like the 4th straight week. So we're going to kick it. We're going to head on out. And there's only one way to head out. Gary, send us into our national championship pick.
Take a step back, take a look at your life, hug your children, kiss your wife, know your neighbor, leave the keys in your truck, do yourself a favor, try your luck. Take a step back, take a step back, take a step back, take a step back. Everybody stop where you're at, take a step back. Take a step back to the way it was when people were crazy. Love was enough. A little more old soul, a little more lay low. Give me just a little more of your heart. I said ready, set, start. Take a step back, take a step back, take a step back, take a step back. Everybody stop where you're at. Take a step back. No more tomorrows, no more today got away from it. Come on, bring it on home. 1, 2, 3, take a step back. Take a step back. Take a step back. Take a step back. Everybody stop where you're at. Take a step back. You know it. Take a step back. Take a step back. Take a step back. Take a step back. Everybody stop where you're at. Take a step back. Take a step back, take a step back, take a step back, take a step back. Everybody stop where you're at. Take a step back. Everybody stop where you're at. Take a step back. Everybody stop. Yes, sir. Take a step back.
There are a lot of bad things in that so-called song. Him saying yes, sir, is probably the worst. Hello and welcome to the final edition of the Weekend Spread. If you're listening to this, thank you so much for holding on through Gary Patterson and about an hour and a half of the Schooner pod. But we have to close it out with the final game. The number 3 Ohio State Buckeyes, the number 1 Alabama Crimson Tide at the national championship game. This should be coming up Monday if the Big Ten and Ohio State don't play any gypsy trickery tricks on us and move the game back a week. But we should have this game on Monday in Miami Gardens, Florida. The Alabama Crimson Tide favored by 7.5. Jameson, incredibly impressive performance out of Ohio State last week. I think a bit of a rusty, weird outing out of Alabama. I think a lot of people expected a lot more out of the Tide, even though they really creamed the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. How do you feel about this one so far?
Yeah, I feel very timid on it, to be honest with you, because Justin Fields, the way he played after his rib injury, was very hopeful that he could be productive. But I don't know what they did to him in injury management to make him feel any better. I don't know if he broke a rib. We've seen, Drew Brees was very unique because he broke like 2/3 of his ribs. But like broken ribs affect quarterbacks a lot, and it definitely hurts you more the next couple days afterwards. So I don't know if he's full health, and I know that Nick Saban's daughter was clamoring about they're just trying to push the game back to get Fields more healthy. So I'm really nervous about Ohio State to begin with on this one, and Alabama moving forward.
It's going to be a very interesting ball game for sure. We're picking this for spread, but we have been picking all of our ball picks. And Ty, I'll let you drop your take here before I give us our rankings. What are your initial thoughts on Alabama and Ohio State?
Yeah, I for one personally, I kind of touched on it being a possibility this season in terms of using the COVID rules to your advantage, especially when it came to contact tracing. You can't really, I guess you could misrepresent, and I'm trying to choose my words carefully. You could misrepresent the number of positives that you have, for example. But when it comes to contact tracing, that is something that is very easy to manipulate, whether you want to play or you don't want to play. And I think, I'm not saying this is happening, but I think it is very plausible that Ohio State might be using something like that to their advantage. Obviously, if they don't delay the game, then it's a non-factor. But I do think that they want it enough, that it means enough. Like the money involved is absurd. I don't think you can argue that there's not motivation to do whatever you have to do, whether it be moral or not, to win this game. I mean, we see that all the time with recruiting violations. You're gonna have to argue that people are willing to break the rules to win in college football. Is that happening or is it not? I don't know. I'm not going to make a statement there. I think it is plausible. All that being said, and we'll get into our sort of picks, I guess, here in a second, but I don't think it matters either way. I think that the winner is already determined. I think it's pretty clear who I'm going to pick here, but yeah, I'll let you take it, Bobby.
Fair enough. And before we get to our final picks, let's break down where everything stands on the Capital One Bowl Mania. No free ads. All of you who have joined, thank you so much. We have an interesting standing here. Bowden Blake leads the pack at 234 points. However, right behind him, Jameson at 229, me at 227, and Tyler Caldwell as well, tying with me at 227. So it is really down to this final game. Very, very, very tight competition. All of the possible points remaining are enough to win. So it's really a 4-team race. I gotta say, Ty,
I will save myself. I will save myself a shred of dignity. In spite of being the regular season champions, I am in fact in dead last.
You are in last behind Little Buso.
That's a tough go.
That's a tough go.
I think I have 20 points left on the table though. So I think even if we have the same pick, I might finish not last at least. So
no, well, she has 199 points. You have 164 with 21 points remaining. So I do not. You are mathematically stuck last.
Yeah. All right. Well, so there we are. I should not have decreed that I was going to extend the season into the postseason. I retained my regular season championship. Yeah,
it's a curse of the Bowl Mania. This happens to Blake every year.
I pulled a Clemson. I Clemsoned.
This usually happens to Blake. He wins the weekend spread every year, but then collapses in Bowl Mania. Jameson wins. It's a big mess.
The method of picking just doesn't translate. I did the same thing I've been doing all year. It didn't translate. So
it's different. So as the weekend spread champion, and the least consequential pick simultaneously somehow, I'll give you first go here, Ty. So Alabama -7.5. Who do you got here?
Yeah, so I think if you guys listen, I was very shocked by the Ohio State Clemson outcome. I think a lot of people were. I will admit I did not expect a full-on Clemsoning, but I'm so happy that Clemsoning is back. It was beautiful to see to start 2021. That was a shock to me. I did not give Ohio State the credit that they deserved, obviously, at that level. They came in way better prepared, obviously way better rested. They only played 5 games, so obviously. But they were very prepared. They know what they're doing. They're coached really well, and they are a very solid team. That being said, I think anyone that listens to the Schooner Pod for a while is well aware that I very much believe that Nick Saban is one of the greatest football coaches of all time on the college level. I honestly believe that he is maybe top 5 all time. Period. And I think it. People will make arguments for guys. Hundreds of years, not hundreds of years ago, but 50 to 100 years ago, it was much less competitive back then. I think that I'm cannot speak highly enough of Nick Saban, and his stats speak for themselves. I also, that's a belief or a bias there, however you want to look at it. I also have really thought that Bama this entire season has not been challenged. I don't think I've seen this Bama team struggle for anything, including in the SEC championship when they were kind of challenged. I think they came in kind of relaxed and maybe turned it on a little bit, but in their playoff game, they executed almost everything perfectly. It was just basic plays executed at the highest level. It was beautiful to see. Like, if you go back and watch the Bama highlight tapes against Notre Dame, if you're just a fan of college football, it was beautiful to see. Again, Notre Dame is trash. So I'll try to cut myself short here. I think it's very obvious for anyone that's been listening. I have been saying that this is a Bama championship year all year. I thought it would be against Clemson, but I think Bama wins this one easily. I think that they come in well prepared. I think they have a higher level of players across the board. We just saw one of them win the Heisman, and another one was in the ceremony. And I think that Bama comes in way better prepared, with a higher level of players overall. And I think that it's not going to be a blowout, but I think they carry the day and cover, no question. So give me Bama here.
Okay, absolutely. So I want Jameson to talk next. Not because,
of course he does.
No,
yeah.
Hold on. I knew exactly what you're going to say. I like thematically going last because I'm a host and I have all the ego. I'm going to go ahead and say it. I have Ohio State winning this game. But Jameson, I want to hear your pick and analysis first.
Yeah, I'm at the point where picking contrarian, hoping I can get the last second win, picking Ohio State, it won't work because Bobby, Ford, and Tyler should all be doing that as well. So I'm going to pick Alabama because I truly think they're just going to stomp Ohio State. I'm just going to take, the consolation trophy of third place or whatever I get if Alabama wins. Second place, I don't know what it's going to be because I don't see me winning this pick 'em. Alabama at 7.5 with Ohio State's COVID stuff. They can't just make that up. They can't just say we have problems with COVID. The game could be canceled and then have zero COVID. There has to be some problems there. So I think they still play the game. And if they play the game and they did have some COVID and Justin Fields has a rib injury, I think Alabama wins by double digits pretty easy. And so I'm going to go with Alabama, and I'll take the consolation trophy moving forward with this bowl.
Fair enough. And again, not again. I'm just going to say it. This Ohio State pick is not jockeying to try to win this thing. This is not a pick that I'm making so I can try to climb my way up in the ladder. I just have a weird feeling about Ohio State this year that I think this is like a destiny thing for them. I feel like it's clicking. I feel like overall they're fresh. Obviously the COVID thing, that's a huge issue. And I made this pick before I knew about the COVID stuff. But you know what? I'm sticking with it. This Ohio State team feels like a weird team of destiny. Is it frustrating? Yeah. It's very frustrating that they've only played 6 games. They're fresh. They look great. They've had more time in training camp to prepare than everybody else. But flat out, they have talent. I think Trey Sermon is a great running back. He's looked remarkable for them. If Justin Fields, if you just morphine him up or whatever they do to him, he's going to be – I think he could be okay. But this Alabama team down the stretch just hasn't impressed me overall. Jalen Waddle returning is a huge issue, of course. But there's something about this Ohio State team that just feels team of destiny to me. So for that reason, I'm going with the Buckeyes. I just have a weird feeling about Ohio State. I'm going to hate it. I think it's a disgrace to how everyone else played this season. I think it's really frustrating that they're in this position in the first place. But I have a feeling. So I'm going to go with the Bucks.
Yeah. I mean, I think even if Ohio State, just to rabbit hole for a second, even if Ohio State didn't go to the Big Ten championship because they didn't meet the original rules that had been set, they still would have been picked for the playoffs. It was a separate thing. So I think Ohio State being in the playoffs and beating Clemson is more or less inevitable at this point. So I don't know that we can fault Ohio State for what their conference chose to do, because I think they would have been here either way.
They did the best they could do. That's really what it boiled down to. And, it wasn't their decision. They were on the side that wanted to play football early. But the matter of fact is they played 6 games, kicked the crap out of a Clemson team that was apparently very subpar, but flat out they're just a good football team. Olave is fantastic as a wide receiver. Ryan Day is an excellent head coach. And I don't know. This feels like a team of destiny. I don't know how to explain it other than that. I could also be very wrong, and Nick Saban could be Nick Saban, and they just roll over Ohio State, which we've seen before.
I'll give it to you. If Justin Fields was healthy, he could be. He could be. I don't know the extent of the injury. The crazy part about college is we don't get to hear these things. They don't release it like they do in the pros. And if he's 100% healthy, X-rays were negative, I would say, yeah, there is a back-ended chance you see something like a Deshaun Watson game with Justin Fields. You can see that. But I just there's too many factors going against Ohio State here.
It just feels like 2014, where nobody wanted them in the first place. You have issues. They had a third string quarterback leading them. I don't think they have that, but it seems like the deck is stacked against Ohio State, just like it was in 14. And again, that it's a stupid, dumb way of looking at a football game of feelings, and 2014 has no correlation with this team. But I just feel like this is an Ohio State team that is ready for this moment, that is going to – they just feel like a team of destiny. And I'm going to put it on the Buckeyes here. But I see what you're getting at, because there are questions with Ohio State. This line should rise as the week goes on, and the knowledge of who's out really sets in. But I'm sticking with the Bucs. It's tough. Alabama definitely a good pick, but yeah. Anyways, I think that's all we have to say for this, though.
Yeah.
If you're betting, pick Alabama now. If you're picking Alabama, don't wait.
Yeah, if you're going to take – I just a second, Jameson statement. If you're going to take Bama, take it now, because I honestly believe that the Bama line is going to rise. If it drops, absolutely. Like I think if this line drops below 7, either way, I think it's a really, really good bet. I know that's almost counterintuitive to say either way if it's below 7, but – yeah, if you're going to take Bama, I honestly believe that take it now. Don't wait for it to go up, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, that's all we have for the national championship. That's all we have for the 2020-2021 season. For me, Jameson and Ty, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for listening the entire way. And we will see you throughout the off season, and we'll be way ready to make our picks for 2021, 2022. Until then, see you on the other side. Happy picking.
David.
Yes?
What is this, David?
This is a
Fruited